All right, well, welcome everybody. It's 12:01. We will begin. I want to thank you for joining us for the session on the California Community College's data warehouse and the student journey. My name is Steve Klein. I'm a program director for the California Community College's Technology Center. And we've done a few sessions in the past couple years about the data warehouse in general. And today we're going to dive deeper into the first opportunity to view the new data set that's available that we call the student journey data set. The data warehouse currently provides researchers a flexible and evolving data model of available and live system-wide data where researchers can use any reporting tool to create any number of reports. Oftentimes, the questions of where this fits with data on demand and data vista come up. And just to say, to begin, this is separate from data on demand and data vista, which have other goals. And I know there's a session tomorrow afternoon on the Data Vista site. This is a resource that comes to you available from the data warehouse, and we'll dive deep into the specifics of that as a tool for researchers currently at this time. If we go to the next slide. What we have planned for today is an overview of our CCC data project and our data warehouse. We'll talk about the data warehouse platform, the data that's currently available in that environment, and then we'll talk specifically for a bit about the student journey data. We'll close with questions and discussions. And we'll also talk about how to access the data warehouse. If you have any questions, we ask that you please put them into the chat area. We will be monitoring chat during this session, and we'll respond to those at different points of the next hour. So Virginia, I see your hand up, but if we could just take your question into the chat, that would be best for now. And with that, next slide, please. Just to let folks know that our data warehouse project is supported by the Data Management Grant Initiative, which comes from the California Community College's Chancellor's Office. We work very closely with the Chancellor's Office to provide colleges with access to this data, and we'll learn more in other slides the level of collaboration we have with the Chancellor's Office and other statewide partners. So next slide, please. All right, with that, I would like to turn it over to Mark Cohen, our product manager for the data warehouse project. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Steve. So the data warehouse project began with a request from the Chancellor's Office for the Tech Center to develop a proof of concept for a data lake, which was then expanded to include a data warehouse. And this was initially rolled out to pilot colleges, providing access to their data across statewide initiatives. That first phase of development was focused on establishing the architecture to support a system-wide data warehouse, which was built in the AWS platform. The second phase of development was focused on aggregating data across the system and segmenting the data so that each college and district may access only their data while providing the Chancellor's Office with data across the system. And that's what was initially deployed to production in 2020. Earlier this year, we entered a third phase of development with the addition of Jack Thompson, our data architect. With Jack, we've been working on the third phase of development of the data warehouse, which is focused on usability. This includes the development of a canonical data model, which we will be talking about in the presentation, and serves to bring together data from multiple data sets. Jack, please advance the slide. So the data warehouse is developed under the direction of the Chancellor's Office, with the Tech Center data warehouse team meeting bi-weekly with the Chancellor's Office research team. In addition, there's a data warehouse advisory group, which has been assembled by the RP group and meets monthly to provide feedback and direction on our work, as well as regular conversations we have with researchers, such as many of you on the call, so that we can better learn about the use cases you're working with and how we can best support your work through the data warehouse. Jack, please advance. So the CCC data is a shared resource with different levels of access. The platform serves colleges and districts, enabling researchers with access to their data. This primarily occurs through access to the data warehouse through either a direct connection or through the data warehouse report server, which can be used to run queries or view reporting. The CCC data platform also supports researchers at the Chancellor's Office who utilize the data warehouse to access a variety of system-wide data sources and develop reporting that combines data elements across data sets. And data is also used to provide limited access to select data partners at the Chancellor's office, such as facilitating the transfer of data elements used to produce Launchboard or to support other statewide initiatives such as CBC. Jack, can you advance? Thanks. So the data warehouse is made up of the following data sets. The CCC applies standard and non-credit application, including decrypted data elements. The CCC apply international application data, promise grant application data, multiple measures placement service. Jack, we lost the presentation, but we do have a nice sloth. The multiple measures placement service, which provides placement recommendations produced at the time the student completes their application. And that data is in the data warehouse, whether you're utilizing multiple measures or not. Data from MyPath, which comprise of advisor card, advisor usage data, and the audit table, as well as data from COCI, or the Chancellor's Office Curriculum Inventory. Jack, please advance. So continuing this list, the data warehouse has data from CID, or the course ID numbering system, and data from Canvas, which the college or district may opt in to being added to their instance of the data warehouse. To have your Canvas data added, that's done by contacting our enabling services group, which I'll talk about on the next slide. Data from Superglue fraud, I'm sorry, Jack, no, okay, thank you. Data from the Superglue fraud reporting, which previously has been referred to as bidirectional fraud reporting. And this is made up of fraud data either identified by the spam filter or reported by colleges to the tech center as locally identified fraud. Data from the Chancellor's Office MIS system, which is made available to colleges, was recently released with our 3.0 release. And finally, our new data set, which we call Student Journey. This connects data from multiple data sources, including CCC Apply and MIS, enabling researchers to better track students from application through graduation. And this is where we'll be focusing today's webinar. Jack, please advance. So to request access to the data warehouse, whether for direct access to Redshift or access to the data warehouse report server or both, you could do that by contacting our enabled services group at the CEMS email address you see here. The QR code or a link at the bottom of the screen will bring you to the Tech Center's enabling services group, which has a number of resources provided, including how to open a staff support ticket. And you can please reach out to me at the email address provided here if you would like additional information on the data warehouse or to schedule a one-on-one conversation with Jack and myself to discuss your specific needs and how we could best support that through the data warehouse. You could also reach out to me if you'd like to invite us to present to your RP group, regional research group, or other meeting. And lastly, in addition to this webinar, we're partnering with the RP group for a data warehouse peer-to-peer session that will occur on October 23rd at noon, and communication will come out about that. And with that, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Jack Thompson, who will be walking you through Student Journey and our plans to expand the data set. Take it away, Jack. Jack, you're muted.
Okay. I'm Jack Thompson. As Steve pointed out, I'm a data architect, and I've been focused on many things, but one of the things that is my primary focus is student journey data. The idea of student journey database or data warehouse is that is a more unified data source. As you saw when Mark was going through his slide, there's a lot of different sources that come from different databases, applications, and so forth. And they're not necessarily meant for reporting, they're meant for data collection and data storage. And the models are built that way. And so what I'm going to talk to today is how I have modified the MIS data in particular to be a more of a reporting and research model. The whole idea of the student journey data set is to simplify queries, allow for deeper insights and correlations, and just in general enhance usability and accessibility. So the MIS data set is a set of data that's collected from submissions that are made by colleges. And so whatever that format is, there is some manipulation that goes on to create a data model of sorts. But if I can just show you, just a second. If I can show you what MIS looks like, it's a set of tables. It makes a lot of sense, but the problem is all of the information here is just codes based. In order for you to figure out what these codes mean, there's another set of PDF documents that are used to do the submissions. And so what you have to do is you have to figure out which column relates to which part of the submission, and then figure out what it actually means. And so what we've done here is in the actual student journey database, I can just take a second and go there. This is all test data, by the way, so there's no real data here, so no problem in looking at it. The idea here is that taking all of the codes, and the first step is to generate a table that has all the identifier codes defined and which identifier it's associated with. So I go back to the presentation. So the whole idea here is that here are the codes, and this table is used to actually create what I call a dimensional model. So if you think about MIS, it's a kind of a 3NF, 2NF, 3NF kind of model. It's not strictly 3NF. And if you wanted to query something, you have to, make, in some cases, several hops. You have to figure out what the codes are. You have to figure out, and build some kind of temporary table with the code definitions, and then build a report out of it. Or you might, pull that into Power BI and then, build your translation tables, your reference tables, or whatever inside Power BI by downloading what's in MIS, the definitions, and then doing some kind of, Excel sheet or something like that. What I've done instead of making you do that is to build a star schema model, and I'm doing it in such a way that you have separate marks for different subject areas, and then conform dimensions that link them together. So the usable information that we have built into the marks is basically aggregated information in addition to the actual definitions of what every field means. And so, okay, so there are several conform dimensions. What I mean by conform dimensions is they apply to more than one mark. So college, term, district, and courses, you can imagine, apply to more than one use case. And so college is simply the district, names and addresses of all the different colleges, and a unique MIS code, which is the identifier for the college. And that's one of the main dimensions. There's also district, which is what we call a snowflake dimension. That's on top of the college. And so you can, group things by a district if you wanted to slice and dice that way. Term is something that was developed some time ago, and I've done some enhancements on it. And what the term dimension does is, based on which college you are, you may have different definitions of terms, but it's the term year, term number, and the name of the term, which may be unique to a college. And then the courses come from COCI. It's the college, the term ID, and then whatever course ID and all the descriptive information for all of the courses. Okay, so the data marts that have been developed for this first release, student success, production, financial aid, participation, student awards, and student enrollment. So these are selected because they are defined in MIS already. And the intent here is to develop a set of marts as a first cut based on feedback we've gotten from talking to researchers. And then the idea is to then create more marts and more correlations between the marts as we have requests. So instead of trying to build a comprehensive, what are called galaxy model that does everything for everybody, that's pretty difficult to do because you don't always know how somebody wants to correlate data. You don't know what they're actually looking to report. So you can make a model and it may make sense, but really it's very important that we get feedback and we build this model based on user requirements. So it's more backing into it than it's more of a right to left than it is a left to right development. So this is the first day of data marts, but we have also put together an infrastructure where we have a set of ETL processes that make it easy for us to build new dimensions and to build, either conform dimensions or marts. And that's because it's a metadata-driven ETL process. So we're not writing a new bunch of code every time we want to build a new mart. What we're doing is we're adjusting the metadata, constructing the relationships, and then building out the mart so we can respond quickly instead of going through a whole, week-long, several weeks long release process. We can do this pretty quickly based on user requirements. So the student success mart, it's not our terminology necessarily, but the idea is that we have term and college, we have aggregated values, and I just want to point out right here, these are aggregated values. So what you're used to seeing when you go into the data warehouses, if you're a particular college, you can only see the data from your college. That's not true with the student journey database marts. The marts are aggregated such that you can't distinguish any student. There's no PII, right? You're only seeing aggregated numbers, but you'll see them for all colleges and all districts. There's one check in there to make sure that no matter how you slice and dice things, you're never going to get less than 10 as a count. And that means, that's the standard that we've been following. So it would be difficult to find out exactly which student you're talking about. So that's an extra precaution that we've taken. This is a mart that shows how many students at what college during what term entered an education plan, define their goals, and I can show you the dimensions right here and what major if they did declare which major. Okay, so I'm a little too fast there. Okay, so majors, if you looked at the MIS data, there are codes, but this actually defines what those majors actually are. Education plan, these are, the definition of an education plan. It basically gives you the status of where the student is with this. What goals they have. Do they want to get a degree, or are they just, if they just want to take a few courses? And then here is one of the tables that's in MIS. It's called progress. It basically is defined as what you see here. And so what you can do with this mart is, and this is a sample Power BI report. And what I'm going to do here is I'll do that on the next one. So you basically pull the model in, and I can show you how that works. Just a second. This is a different report, but I just want to show you. So, you basically pull the model in, whatever the mart is. and you have to determine what the connections are. That'll all be defined for you. And then you can build whatever report you want. You can slice and dice on whatever term, whatever dimension you want to slice and dice on, you can pull it into the filters. You can filter on it, or you can build a different dimensional report. So the whole idea is this is self-serve. You can tailor reports to look like anything you want, as long as the model supports it. And as I said before, the whole idea is to enrich the model over time to be able to make it easier to report on all kinds of various things. Okay, so this is called student production. This is something also defined in MIS. It seems geared towards things that might indicate that a student would need some sort of extra support. So if I can show you the dimensions here, if you're a migrant worker, you can see how that might be something that you might have to account for. If there's some kind of limited English proficiency, that's also here. If in any way a student is identified as academically disadvantaged, that might indicate that there's some more support needed. And so this report is focused on that. And I can show you. That's the snapshot, but this is the actual report. And so, again, you can select from any one of the dimensions that are part of the MART, and you can build any type of report. You can, these are all capabilities of Power BI. You can get the specific counts and so forth. Just want to point out again, none of this data is real. It's our dev data. It's been created for the purpose of testing. It is nothing you're looking at. So if these numbers don't look right, don't be concerned. They're not real numbers. Okay, so financial awards. Obviously, there is a fact table here that tells you the amount, how many students and the amount that they've received, and what type of award, and then during what term and which college. So these are this is a subset of what's possible, and these are all again translated from the submissions. And this is the report itself. And so you can select whatever college you want. And whatever types of awards you want. And so these marks are designed for any BI tool. So it doesn't have to be Power BI, it could be Tableau or anything else that you want to use. Now, this mark has to do with how many students have received an award, meaning a degree, for what major, what college, and what term. And so the main dimension that's added to this mark that's not already there is the description of the award. Okay, here's the actual report itself. And you can see here, got whatever college, total number of students graduating with whatever particular degree, You could filter that by term. You could filter that by any of the other dimensional attributes, or build a completely different type of report. So we've built some marks. We have built a whole framework to be able to do this quickly, to build new marks, to reorganize data, add dimensions, and so forth. But what we're really looking to do next is to get feedback on the current model, and then evolve the model based on user requirements. And I think we have also got some backlog items that we're already starting to work on based on feedback we received. So here's one of the most interesting ones, I think. So the student journey is all about, you get, you apply to a college, you go through the steps of, you join a college, you have a education plan, you have a major that you've selected, and then you decide to maybe move to another college. So the whole idea of this application to award is all about tracking a set of students. So you pick a particular date and you say, okay, so how many students attended my college and what were their majors and so forth, and what was, maybe what education plan they had. And then you can go through time and you can see, well, where did they end up going? Did they go to another college? Did they go to another major? Did they matriculate? Did they not matriculate? Did they just drop out? It's an entire mark that would be dedicated to being able to track that kind of thing, all the way from application to matriculation. The other thing is, you saw some of the marks, but one of the new marks will have all the sociodemographic information in a conformed dimension, so you'll be able to slice and dice on that as well. The other thing would be an addition of peer grouping in the college dimension. And so that would be done based on probably size, proximity, clustering, or whether it's a rural or urban college. And then there's a lot of work being done on fraud and fraud scores. So that would be incorporated as a filter. So you could say, well, I want to eliminate students from the calculation because the fraud score is a particular, threshold, it's above a particular threshold. And I think that's skewing my results. So I want to be able to eliminate that. In order to do that effectively, each one of the fraud scoring methods would have to be identified and then allow you to select based on that, not one single thing. I think transparency here is very important, because I think a lot of researchers would have a very, their own way of seeing, of doing that and of determining whether or not it was realistic or not. So I think here we would like to open up and have a discussion, take questions, and see, what you think, and if you have any ideas as to what else we might add to the backlog or what we would do to the current modeling.
We can take your questions in the chat area, or if you want to raise your hand, we can also unmute you for a more elaborate question. Stephen in the chat asks, for course ID, Jack shared a screenshot showing course name, such as Anthropology 104. Are updates to reflect Common Course numbering changes planned?
The data in the data warehouse is coming straight from the systems of record. So as the course numbers are changed in their systems of record, that will be, those corresponding changes will be in the data warehouse.
One of the components of this environment is we are working with live data. So to Mark's point, those changes will be reflected as the updates to Common Course numbering are done. Stephen asks, how do we get access to this data warehouse? Is student level data available?
So student level data is available for your college or your district, depending on where you sit. But this aggregated model allows you to see other colleges' information, but only at an aggregated level.
And Mark, you want to mention again the access to the data warehouse? We did put it in chat. Let me put it in there again, but maybe you can also explain that.
Yeah, so basically all of your data in the data warehouse from the various data sources I listed is available either through direct access to the Redshift data warehouse or through access to the data warehouse reporting server. Connecting to Redshift allows you to use your own analytic or BI tools, or connecting through the report server is kind of a turnkey solution. But in either case, you have access to the full set of the data associated with your school or district for those data sets. Within the student journey data set that Jack's talking about, for that data set, that is comprised of aggregate data, as we are currently not able to share student level data between colleges. There is interest amongst a lot of researchers to share student level data between colleges. And I know that's an issue that the Chancellor's Office is looking into and will address with the data governance. And when that data governance is in place, we could expand that access. But at this time, you have full access to your data and aggregate access to system-wide to data across the system.
Okay, thanks. And I just put into the chat the process for requesting for researchers at the individual colleges or your district to request access. Let's see. Sean asks, you mentioned that the data models would also be supplied. How will those be delivered?
Yeah, that'll be in the release documentation.
Okay. So maybe while I'm reading these, Mark, if you want to drop in the public documentation link.
Sure.
Patrick asks, will there be the ability to request the student journey data sets in a student level file for our own institutions?
Hey, that would be a nice backlog item, which doesn't sound too complicated, because all I would have to do there is, instead of just aggregating, just give you the student IDs. And while you brought that up, I want to show something here. Hold on. Okay. You notice, for those of you who have used the data warehouse in the past, you see you were given access to a schema that had your MIS code, and then all you could see in this schema was your MIS data or your data, and it was true for all of the warehouse. Just want to point out one thing here. We don't do that anymore for the student journey. So when you come, let's say, to look at applied data, I'll show you in just a second here. Okay. I'm not going to, this is dev data, so nothing's going to come back for me. But what happens is, instead of you having to go to a different schema, you just go to the table that you want to access, or the MART or whatever, and you'll only get back data for you based on who you are. So we know who you logged in as. If you're a district, you're going to get all the district information. If you're an individual college, you'll get just your college. And if you're the Chancellor's Office, you'll get everything. So when you request that, I just want to point out, the MART will be available to you, but you don't have to go through that process of finding your schema with a code and so forth. It's all just going to be in public. So what we can do is we can make a version of the MARTs that have student level data based on what it is you're allowed to see. And if it so happens that you have an agreement to be able to share data between two colleges, if that's something that you're able to do, then your tables will automatically, based on who you are, will adjust and give you the data in that way.
Jack, just to clarify, that functionality currently isn't in place, but it is something we can look at and adding into the roadmap. Accurate?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Patrick. Laheng appreciates this, says this is great, and looks into being able to incorporate this data set into post-graduation outcomes and other data that follows a student in terms of employment and post-graduation. So thanks, Laheng, for that comment. We continue to evolve this, so these kind of comments and sort of how we incorporate available data within the system to also local data is what we're currently exploring. So more to come on how the data you currently have and understanding students' progress after and locations after graduation or after leaving your campuses, we are aware of and looking into as well about supporting that data correlation. Adriana asks, the data access will be live or downloadable?
Both. So what I'm showing you when I show you those Power BI reports, that's Power BI direct query. But you can download the data, or you can just use whatever SQL tool that you have, DB or something like that, and you could download the data if you wanted to. But the way that marts are structured, you just connect to it with a BI tool, and you'll be able to build your reports that way. But it's really your choice.
Okay, thanks. Gus asks about will only the research department be given access to these tools? Currently, for the data warehouse access, the research groups at the college or district have access, are the only ones that have access to this environment. We at the end of this current school year and into the next, we are releasing a new reporting tool that will be called CCC Report Center. It's a superset platform that will be delivering reporting to other groups at a college or district. So more to come on that, but everything we're seeing here currently is for the research teams.
I would add that the head of the research department authorizes who does get access on their team, and we do have some researchers that have IT support working closely with the research that are given access. Again, to request access, that comes to the CMS email address, and then our support people reach out to the head of research at the college to authorize access for that account, whether that be a researcher or someone supporting the research team.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark, for adding that. Aaron asks that I already have access, but do not see the same tables in the student journey. Do I need permission to a different instance?
Well, in a few days, the release 304 will be out and the tables will be in production. Right now, what I'm showing you is QA. So it's a couple of days away to get this into your hands, and we'll notify you.
Right. So, Aaron, if next week you don't see that, please reach out to me and I'll set up a call so we can troubleshoot that. But you should have access once that release takes place.
Okay. All right. I think that covers the questions in chat. Anything else? We have some extra time. As Mark mentioned at the top, this is the first of these sessions intended to really bring awareness and support to the data that's available to you. We are happy to set up individual one-on-one sessions to work with you and your college researchers and research teams to make use of this data to better understand and explore what's available. The documentation is also available to support what you have access to. Mark, anything else for closing, or Jack?
Yeah, I would add that the data set was developed in such a way where we can make incremental changes outside of a formal release process, allowing us to respond pretty rapidly to requests from the field. So, as I mentioned, we've been having conversations and welcome anyone reaching out to me who would like to have a conversation around the specific use cases that you're looking to address. And if that can't be addressed through the data in the data warehouse, if we have access to that data, we can extend the model or make modifications to better support what you're trying to do. So, please reach out. If you are looking to accomplish something that you don't see, or looking for some guidance on how you can leverage the data warehouse or the student journey data set to support what you're working on. And again, Jack and I can work with you on getting you the information or taking on some new requirements where we can make enhancements and rapidly deploy them to better support you.
Excellent. And David asks about supporting one-on-one support for research teams. And David, I'm dropping Mark's contact info. Mark's the product manager for the CCC Data Warehouse. And you can follow up and set something up with you and Jack and Mark to explore deeper for your specific college or district. Jack, anything else to add?
Yeah, I just want to say the idea of putting this set of marks together and setting up this process where you can give feedback and have the model changed or enhanced or enriched or whatever you're asking for. The whole idea is that probably what happens is any users of the warehouse today write queries and they're specific to what they're doing, but probably would be useful to be shared with everyone. And we had some discussion some time ago about having repository queries. And that's not a bad idea. It's just that I haven't seen that work that well because it takes time to document and people don't necessarily put every version that they've developed online. So the idea here is to get feedback so we can build out the model more and more and make all of those things that you're asking for usable by everybody. And then in that way, just build a more comprehensive model that's usable. That's the whole purpose of this whole process.
Thank you. David asks about the recording being shared, and yes, this will be shared in the next handful of days. We do preparation of the recording for supporting accessibility needs. So once that work is done, we'll send it out to the registration list. So David will come soon. Excellent. Well, again, we thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure to be able to share something we've been working on for quite a while, and be able to share it with you all. It's very exciting. So thank you for making the time available to join us. We wish you a great day, a great spring, and we will see you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you.